Now, as the world approaches the 2030 milestone for Sustainable Development Goals, those most affected by global crisis are best positioned to drive innovative, resilient, and inclusive strategies. Here to tell us more is a multi-award-winning actor, producer, director, and United Nations Environment Program Goodwill Ambassador. Take your left hand, your right hand. Round of applause for Don Cheadle.
Excellencies, friends, allies in the fight for a more sustainable future. I'm honored to be with you here today to deliver these brief remarks. Firstly, please excuse the scruffy beard. As an actor, these occasional mid-character looks are an occupational hazard. I also thought that the graying might make me look about 10% smarter. So we meet today at a pivotal moment. A moment that the Summit for the Future is designed to tackle head-on. A world facing the impacts of war, entrenched poverty and inequity, the rising tide of climate change and all the attendant disasters it brings with it. A world that is seeing the rise of regressive forces in too many places, with actions taking place every day to roll back the rights and freedoms so many of us have fought hard for. Especially the rights of all people, no matter their race, gender, or sexuality, to live free, safe, and successful lives. We see this in the actions of even the American Supreme Court, reducing the rights and freedoms of women and people in the Black community in this country. So it falls on all of us here in this room today to step up and to do our part. So we need to ask ourselves, what will it take to move forward faster? To a world in balance and at peace, a world where we can all be safe and healthy, where all of us can flourish at home and at work, where our communities are strong, vital, and nourishing, where we all have a voice and the opportunity to shape our futures. As we gather today, we must face the fact that only 15% of the Sustainable Development Goals are on track for 2030, and some are even moving backwards. So what has been missing in the work that we have to do? What's the real acceleration that's needed? What I know from my experience as an advocate for sustainability and most importantly for justice and equity on our planet is this. The people who are most impacted by the challenges we are seeking to solve are often the least sought after for solutions. People from marginalized racial and ethnic groups, women, communities with the fewest resources. I saw firsthand when I traveled to Sudan the impact of climate change on women who exposed themselves to the horrors of war merely by trying to collect firewood and water. It's been proposed that the drought in Syria was one of the drivers of the conflict there, and wars in every region of the world are exacerbated by lack of access to natural resources such as water, food, and clean air. All these are acutely impacted by climate change and will continue to fuel stress, conflict, and violence if we don't take action. We often behave as though racial equality, gender equality, and justice for all marginalized people will be an outcome of the Sustainable Development Agenda, or even the outcome of the Pact for the Future being discussed at the UN this week. But these people are not outcomes. On the contrary, we need to view them as leaders with the knowledge and power to push the 2030 goals within our reach. Because the truth is that the marginalized communities most impacted by these challenges, from climate change to poverty to violence, by dint of their collective experiences and creativity, they often know best how to tackle the seemingly insurmountable. But historically, they disproportionately lack the resources to enact their ideas, and too often their voices and leadership go unseen and unheard. We must not discount these voices, these precious natural resources. Their strength and imagination must be a force that drives the Sustainable Development Agenda. They are a key to moving forward faster. If we want to truly be at the cutting edge of innovation, our answer isn't just technology or AI or robots. The answer, the big answer, is putting people who are most impacted in the driver's seat. And make no mistake, climate crises are not race neutral, gender neutral, or poverty neutral. In the United States, we see everywhere the evidence that the climate crisis is disproportionately a Black crisis. If the planet warms 2 degrees Celsius, Black people in my country are 40% more likely to live in places where the extreme temperatures will cause more deaths. The statistics show Black Americans lose wealth after climate disasters, while white Americans actually gain wealth. 68% of African Americans live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant, leading to disproportionate rates of cancer and asthma. And Black women are most acutely impacted, with studies showing that women experience increased gender-based violence, worse health and stress impacts, and more dire economic impacts following climate disasters. This snapshot in the United States has its global mirror everywhere and impacts the climate change that's being seen all over the world. Tendai Achume, the former UN Special Rapporteur on racial discrimination, highlighted that sacrifice zones, subject to the worst environmental degradation and climate change impacts, exist worldwide. She showed that burdens are disproportionately borne by racially, ethnically, and nationally marginalized groups who are residents of the hardest hit by pollution, biodiversity loss, and climate change. Indigenous people are many times the hardest hit. Globally, there are an estimated 370 million indigenous people whose livelihoods are being negatively impacted by climate change due to the increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as droughts, floods, storms, cyclones, and heat waves. We see this pattern all too often, from the impact on indigenous communities in the Amazon to the impacts on disinvested communities in the global South. But these communities are ready to lead solutions like clean energy, safe water, healthy food, affordable housing, and good jobs. The Solutions Project, a nonprofit on whose board I serve, funds and amplifies the climate solutions of Black and Indigenous people and of communities of color across the United States. These communities are innovative, energized, and creative. They're installing solar panels, getting behind clean energy, pushing for better policies, getting ready for climate disasters, responding when disasters hit. For example, here in New York, Uprose, a grantee of the Solutions Project, championed turning the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal and industrial waterfront into a hub for offshore wind turbines. This massive investment in wind energy will create 5,000 jobs, power 1.3 million homes in New York, and build stronger climate adaptation, mitigation, and resilience. This type of creativity, strategy, and innovative leadership can be seen everywhere across the globe. Because as we know, and we've all experienced, necessity is the mother of invention. In Bangladesh, villagers are creating floating vegetable gardens to protect their livelihoods from flooding, while in Vietnam, communities are helping to plant dense mangroves along the coast to diffuse tropical storm waves. Indigenous peoples in the Central, South American, and Caribbean regions are shifting their agricultural activities and their settlements to new locations which are less susceptible to adverse climate events. Indigenous peoples, for example, in Guyana, are moving from their savanna homes to forest areas during droughts and have started planting cassava, their main staple crop, on moist floodplains which are normally too wet for other crops. All this to say, we must upend our thinking about global development and see the potential when we listen to and invest in communities who are most vulnerable to climate change, most destabilized by conflict. As leaders, your job is to see these people as fellow leaders and as architects and visionaries who can propel the vision inherent in the Sustainable Development Goals and the Pact for the Future. Ask yourselves, how am I working with impacted communities, with those hardest hit by climate change, by conflict, by regressions in rights and opportunities? How is their thinking shaping your climate and net zero strategies? Do your strategies fully consider the social impacts of these communities? How do their ideas show up in how you manage your supply chains, your sustainability work, your philanthropy, your business strategy, your corporate social responsibility? Above all, ask yourself, how am I harnessing new ideas from these communities to drive and co-create new and innovative solutions? Because if you don't ask yourself those tough and honest questions, we will stay stuck stuck in status quo thinking, stuck in a lack of progress on the global goals, and with the Pact for the Future, stuck with a missed opportunity. It is the people who are closest to the greatest issues that face us today who are key to moving forward faster on our shared goals. Let's reject the idea of development as something top-down, something we do to people. Let's instead embrace the fact that communities on the front lines must be contributors, co-creators, and leaders tasked with shaping our strategies and thinking for a sustainable and equitable future. We must continue to promote and support those who take seriously these challenges facing us today and push back on those in positions of power who deprioritize climate change, or worse, as a candidate for the highest office in this country babbled recently, see the climate crisis as a good thing, given it would expand his seafront property. Okay. So apologies, world, and fingers seriously crossed over here for November. Again, I appreciate your inviting me to speak with you today, and I applaud the UN for adopting this critically important pact for the future. It will only be possible when we all work together. Thank you very much.